Quiet us this morning, Lord. Come and breathe into us your Spirit and your blessings. As we lift up people who are in need of prayer, as we lift up those that are home and recovering, as we lift up our hearts that are too heavy to speak, or the tears or the smiles we carry, we know that you are with us. So wherever we may need you this morning, God, we ask that you can let us know that you are here, that you can take these concerns or whatever else is upon our hearts and hold them in the palm of your hand. Let us know that we are your children and that we are blessed. Let us know that we are not alone. Not only are you walking with us, but we are surrounded by our sisters and brothers that come and walk with us and share the journey. So I thank you for this time that we can share with each other so that all of us can lift each other up and feel your presence. So just be with us in the remainder of this service and be who you need to be for us. And all of God's people said, Amen.
This morning's scriptures come from the book of Acts and then Ecclesiastes, in the second chapter of Acts. The believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the community, to their shared meals, and to their prayers. A sense of awe came over everyone. God performed many wonders and signs through the apostles. All the believers were united and shared everything. They would sell pieces of property and possessions and distribute the proceeds to everyone who needed them. Every day, they met together in the temple and ate in their homes. They shared food with gladness and simplicity. They praised God and demonstrated God's goodness to everyone. The Lord added daily to the community those who were being saved. And then in the fourth chapter of Ecclesiastes, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their hard work. If either should fall, one can pick up the other. But how miserable are those who fall and don't have a companion to help them up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they can stay warm. But how can anyone stay warm alone? Also, 1 can be overpowered, but 2 together can put up resistance. A 3-ply cord doesn't easily snap. May God give blessing to the reading and the hearing of the word.
Today we are going to conclude our series on the spiritual disciplines. And today's spiritual discipline is on hospitality. And what I would like to do is talk about hospitality, but also tie in an idea of small groups, which we will unpack as we go through this, of something that we are wanting to begin here at the church. And, you know, I feel like maybe Fred should be preaching this sermon, because Fred wrote the book on hospitality. So I might not do it much justice here. But you as a church have also helped form that. And as we have talked about before, one of the things about Oakland that is great and known is that we are hospitable, that we are welcoming, that we allow people to come and be with us. Because one of the ideas of hospitality, at least for me, is this idea of welcoming people, of telling people that they can come and sit with us and be who they are, and then together we can figure out what our part is on this journey of faith. That it doesn't matter where we come from, what we believe, or any of that. We say, come and be a part of this. Come and be a part of this family, and let us figure out where we fit in and how we are going to be on this journey together. And I know I've said this before, but one of the things that I am looking forward to is when the church can still continue to progress. And what I mean by that is that for so long, the church, even today, and you can see this in other churches and in all communities, that you have a lot of a faith that says that if you behave like me and you believe like me, then and only then will you belong with me. So we have to look like somebody else. We have to think like somebody else. And if we don't fit that mold, we may not feel welcomed. But if we follow what Jesus says and follow the idea of hospitality and welcoming, we know that we can reverse that. And we can say, you know what? Come and belong with us. Come and sit with us and learn what we believe and figure out what you believe. And then that behavior will take care of itself. You can wrestle that out with God. But it starts with letting people know that they belong, that they are welcome, that they have a place to come and to sit and to be with people. Even people that are different than us, think differently than us. Look around in here. We have Republicans and we have Democrats. We have people that are going to vote for Trump, and we have people that are going to vote for Hillary, and we have people that probably won't even vote because we don't like any of them. Okay? We have people in here that have a very conservative theology and a theology that has very strict standards, and we have people in here with a progressive theology that is a little different, and we allow the space for everybody to come. Now, we want to foster these connections. That's part of what hospitality and welcoming is to say, come and be with us. And even in our differences, we can find out how similar we really are. Come and figure out that just because you don't think like me or look like me or talk like me, we still may have some things in common, and figure out who God is for each of us, and we can help each other along the way. Small groups foster these connections. This idea that says we're going to go and be a part of a group, and we're hopefully have this group that might think a little differently than all of us, and everybody can share, and we can help mold each other. We can help sharpen each other. And small groups is an idea that is very biblical. And you heard Rhonda talk about Acts, where they were sent out. And this thing in Christianity started out of small groups, started out of house churches, started out of even the small group that Jesus had, the 12 disciples. And they said, go, teach these people, unpack this faith. And then once they come to an understanding, they can go out and share and unpack it. And it spreads like that. In the Old Testament, it was interesting, in the book of Exodus, in this 18th chapter, Moses is dealing with a lot of things with the people of Israel, and they're stressed out, and they're kind of getting burnt out and apathetic because they're wandering around the wilderness, and they really don't know what to do, and problems are arising. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, tells him, listen, you have to understand, you cannot do this alone. You need some help. So what I recommend, what I give you advice is to go find some people who can lead some small groups of people, and help take care of these problems, and it will go well. And if you read that story, it even ushered in a sense of renewal for these people, because they had a connection. They had a point where they can come and understand and unpack all of these teachings and all of these things that Moses had, and these problems that arose. He understood that we can't do this alone. We can't do it all. That's a humbling thing to admit that, hey, I can't do this alone. I'm not an island. And I can't understand fully what this Christianity is to me and what faith is to me if I'm the only one deciphering it, if I'm the only one reading about it, and I don't challenge myself with other people, or if I don't get support from other people. It's very hard to have an authentic faith in a sense that way. We can have a faith, but it's not going to be a full faith if I do it alone. I mean, as much as I would like to think that in the 20 minutes that I'm up here, you get all you need, I know that's not true. And there's just so much you can hear in a 20-minute sermon. And you can hear ideas, and you can be challenged, and you can think, I'm going to unpack this a little bit. But it's very tough to have a fully fledged spiritual life if this is the only thing you're you're basing it on. And so what we need is we need people to come around us. And part of that hospitality says, come and let's talk about this. Let's wrestle with this a little bit. Let's understand what this means for you. Because it's a wonderful thing when I'm out there shaking hands after a sermon and people come out there and they give me a little short thing of, I really appreciated what you said, or I got this out of that, or I heard you say this. And 9 times out of 10, none of that is what I intended. Okay? That is the beauty of how God speaks, is that you will hear the voice of God in a certain thing where somebody else may have not. Or you would have heard a different aspect of the voice of God or the leading of God. And we won't know that unless we share, unless we are with each other on this journey, where we can say, I heard this, and I heard this, or I didn't really care for this, and this is why. And we challenge each other. It's about being in a space that is safe, that says, let's share authentically with each other. We come to a deeper understanding. Part of the spiritual disciplines is to deepen our faith, to deepen our understanding of God. And this idea of hospitality and welcome feeds right into what the goal of the small groups are, is to say, come and let's journey together. Because it builds relationships. And one of the goals, I think, of hospitality and welcoming, and also of the small group ministry that we're hoping to start here, is that it allows people to come and feel connected to the larger church. As our church grows and we get more people and new people, it's very tough to feel connected sometimes. And it's very tough to feel connected, especially when we do not see things the same as other people. So it's very easy for us, and if we were true to ourselves, we probably could admit that we probably hang around people in this church and have relationships with people in this church that think like us, that are close to our own theology and maybe even our own political leanings or whatever you want to say, because it's comfortable and it's easy. But part of feeling connected is to connect to the whole church and to say, we need to be connected to those people that may think and look differently than us, because they can offer us something that maybe I haven't paid attention to, or they can challenge me to think about God in a bigger way, and instead of getting a very small picture of God. And I am guilty of this as well. It's very easy for me to go around people who think like I do, because it solidifies my views and says, see, I think I know what I'm talking about, instead of being challenged by people who think a little differently. And I think one of the things that we are feeling, not just in this church, but maybe even in Darke County in a sense, is, at least for me, and I know I've talked to some others that feel the same way, and it might be just because we're in a political season and going to elect a president, and it's very divisive, is that it feels like the rift between conservatives and progressives, Republicans and Democrats, whatever word you want to use, is getting bigger. Because people want to defend their belief. I'm right and you're wrong. I have the right way and your way is not right. Whatever, and both sides do that. But what if we allowed people to get together and talk about those? And I'm going to be tongue-tied. A place that is safe. A place that says, let's talk. And let's make God the basis for what we are doing. Because we can be connected and build relationships and have full relationships even with people we don't think we have anything in common with. That's a powerful thing. I don't know about you, but I have some friends in my life, from the time I was, in college and up, that started out as enemies. And enemies is a big word, but because, we thought something or I assumed something, I'm not going to go talk to this person because they're a jerk. And they're thinking, well, I'm not going to talk to John because John's a jerk. Or whatever it may be, or we assume things, we lose out on blessings. We lose out on relationships that are big and meaningful, and understand that, hey, we don't all have to look the same to get along. That's a powerful, powerful thing. But we, as a church, can grow and be connected by extending hospitality and a welcoming spirit that says, come. Come and sit and be with us and allow us to share with each other. It fosters community. And I think sometimes that's why we join a church, is because we feel part of a community. And then as a church grows bigger, we feel like a little disconnected sometimes because we don't know everybody, or we kind of just venture in our own little group and don't venture out that long. But these friendships and these relationships are vital, not only to our faith, but our survival. We cannot do this alone. We cannot walk alone. We need people to come with us. It also helps us to listen to each other. Part of hospitality and welcoming is to come and let people talk and share their story with us. Not to just tell them our story and tell them that they got to fit into our prearranged story that we already have written. It's to say, come, let me hear your journey. Let me hear where you've come from. Let me hear why your faith is where it is right now. Let me understand who you are. And then when you are done sharing, let me share with you my journey. And let me share with you who I am and who God is for me. And then you build relationships on that and you listen to each other. And it helps us to focus on each other. It helps me to shut my mouth enough to listen and to serve other people. And I have a big problem with that. We went home for a wedding. And of course, you get a lot of Italians together, it gets loud. And I don't remember what I did, but Amanda had to hit me at the reception because everything was quiet. And all of a sudden, I screamed out something. I don't even remember what it was. And everybody just looked right at me. And everyone's like, wow, that was loud. But then my aunts and uncles turned to Amanda and was like, well, that's just a Scro thing. That's an Italian thing. And everybody else got loud. Okay? But we don't listen to each other. We just get loud. And then when somebody else gets loud, we talk over each other. And then as I'm doing right now, our hands start going. Okay? I have to force myself to listen. I have to remind myself, hey, I need to listen to other people's journeys because they might have a perspective that will help my journey. And then we serve each other that way. And then they listen to ours. And it's a back and a forth. And we build each other up and we walk alongside each other. Just like this beautiful anointing service. To come and say, I need my family surrounding me. I need people to help me walk through this dark part or this scary part or this other journey of life. We need each other. Come, let us build these relationships. And again, as I said, part of hospitality and welcoming is understanding that I don't have to walk alone, that I'm not alone, that I have other people that will encourage me and lift me up and build us up and walk with us. Come, find rest. I know you're struggling. Come, let me take care of you. Eat something as simple as sending a card, a meal, whatever it may be. Come, I know you're hurting. Rest a little bit. Sit with us. I remember I went to Mexico a few times on these mission trips. And I think I got the best definition of hospitality by this Mexican family that we were helping. And you got to understand, where we went in Tijuana, it was shacks. These people literally built shacks out of the trash dumps and just built them on the side of a hill. They have nothing. But yet we were there helping rebuild the house. And I just remember it was hot and we were thirsty and we were hungry. And of course, if you know me, I get angry when I'm hungry. Okay, I get frustrated or any of that. But all of a sudden, the woman, the homeowner came and said, hey, take a break and come into our house. And there was about 6 of us and there was like 3 of them. And we were huddled into this little shack. And this lady made us a meal. And this meal, and I'm not exaggerating, probably took a week's worth of her wages to make. And I had the best hibiscus iced tea I've ever had in my life. Till this day, I cannot replicate that. And it was just such a teaching moment. Here we are helping them. Here we are coming with a mindset that, we live better than them. They have it harder. We're going to offer them all this help. But here she helped us. And she was hospitable and welcoming. And she said, come and find rest for a moment. Come and sit. And then as we were sitting, we had a couple that spoke Spanish and we heard her story and where she came from. And then she started to ask us where we've come from and our story. And the rest of the afternoon, we didn't even build. We just sat with each other. That's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing, too, because we realized that we were more connected than we were disconnected, that we had more in common than we didn't. And just because they didn't have what we had didn't make any difference. They welcomed us in, and they let us rest. When I was the youth pastor at the Pleasantdale Church of the Brethren, we redid our vision statements and mission statements. And one of the lines that we decided to use was that we would like to be the front porch to the community. Now, how many people here remember the time when a front porch was a big deal? Yeah. It'd be interesting if everybody could look around, because it's the older generations that raise their hand. We don't have that concept anymore. I remember talking to people where they would say, oh, this community has changed. It used to be we would sit out on our porch and people from the neighborhood and walk around, and they would come and they would sit on the porch and we'd have a lemonade or a beer or whatever it was. And it was just a meaningful time that we welcomed each other and we listened to each other and we shared our journeys with each other. We don't do that hardly anymore. A lot of times in our neighborhood, we might know the people across the street or right next door, but then that's about it. And nobody's out on their porches anymore, because you go home and you go right into the house. Or we're so busy we're not even home. But being that front porch, to me, symbolized this idea of hospitality and welcoming. Come and just let's talk. You think, and I know this isn't a good sermon illustrations, but if you ever remember those Bartle and James commercials where they're just sitting out on the porch drinking Bartles and James. I think that's what it was called. Why can't we do that? Can you imagine how much a community we would feel like if we had some of that back? If we went back and understood that when we took time to invest in each other and listen to each other, it fostered community and relationships. It's tough. Our world is changing at a very fast pace. Sometimes I kind of wish it was back in the 50s or the 40s or the 60s or whatever it was when we were a little slower. Of course, I wasn't born back then. But, from what I hear, it was good. I was born in the late 70s. Everything went downhill from there. But, hospitality and welcoming, small groups. It will deepen our spiritual lives. And now some will say, well, I could do a lot of things to deepen our spiritual lives, but this helps it. This facilitates us to be disciplined about doing that. It helps us also be accountable to each other. That's another thing that we don't do anymore. We don't really want to hold each other accountable anymore, because nobody wants to be told that what they're doing isn't right. Nobody wants to be told that they need to work on a few things, but it keeps us accountable and our spiritual lives deepen because of that. It's like working out. I know for myself that I do a lot better losing weight and working out when I have a partner with me. And when I know that somebody is going to hold me accountable, or if I say, you know what, I'm not really feeling like doing it today, and they say, well, we're going to do it. Or just knowing that somebody's going to show up at a certain time and I need to show up. It helps keep me accountable. No different in our spiritual lives in small groups or with each other, where we can say, you know what, I need to do this. I need to invest this time into here, and I need to show up because it's going to help me and deepen me, and we find value in it, and it means something. We need each other. That verse in Ecclesiastes that Rhonda read, 2 are better than 1. Because when you get the wind knocked out of you, somebody can pick you up when you get knocked out. We need each other. I can't do this alone, at least not fully. And I want you to hear that. We can't. We need each other. So I want you to think about joining small groups and the value of those are. And I don't want you to say, there's just one more thing I got to sign up for. This is a powerful opportunity to say this is something meaningful, and we are going to be connected. And we have sign-up sheets in the fellowship hall, and you can find a group and sign up. And what a blessing it would be if I went out there and found out that all those spots were open and we had to find other hosts to host these small groups. But now I want you to hear from Julie Brewer, who has been part of putting all of this together, and she's going to share some of her perspectives and experience with small groups.
Good morning. So we've had a lot shared about hospitality here this morning and extending our welcome and bringing more people to the table. So that's quite literally what we're going to do here, is bring people to the table. I'd like to share with you some of the experiences that Isaac and I had the opportunity to have while we were living in Athens a few years ago. And they had a practice that they called Quakerates, which consisted of approximately 8 people, specifically 8 Quakers. And they met for a potluck meal in someone's home. We'd have some informal conversations over dinner, and then take time after dinner for deeper sharing. Our particular group happened to span the ages of 19 to 81. So we had some really rich and really diverse conversation going on. It was through this group that we met a number of our dear friends, including David and Helen. As a new teacher, I found Helen's teaching experiences and love for the arts poured profoundly into my own experiences and current struggles. And Isaac was inspired by David's love for the natural world and his care for their farm, in spite of his decades-long battle with Parkinson's. We found that in sharing both our everyday ins and outs of life and our more deeply held struggles and successes, we felt a more tangible connection to the congregation as a whole. There was a warmth, an acceptance, and a care there that embraced us through and through. It's with this experience in mind that we're moving forward with what we're calling home groups. These groups are going to meet, hopefully, at least once a quarter to share a potluck meal in someone's home, and then have a time of guided sharing after the meal. We have signups available, like John said, there's a big table out there, and we'll have the signups available for the next 3 Sundays. And then we'll have a kickoff potluck on the 25th of September after worship to share a little bit more in more detail what we're hoping will happen in those conversations. And we want to make sure that you know that children are welcome at these groups. Okay, that is definitely okay. And the details are in the bulletin, and if you have any questions, you can see me or Rhonda or Paula or Dan or Isaac, somebody. And it's our hope, again, that we're going to be growing together as a congregation as each of us are growing with God. Thanks.
And those sign-up sheets will be out there for this month of September. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first Sunday in October, we will have kind of a kickoff no, we're not doing that. Last Sunday of September, we will have kind of a kickoff potluck to celebrate that. So pray about it, think about it. Maybe you already know you want to be a part of that. I'll also encourage you to think about signing up for a small group with people that you might not know, that you might not be a part of, to get to know each other and be connected. That is up to you. And as Julie said, the goal is to at least meet once a quarter, but your group can meet more often if they feel led to do that. That is up to your group. But it is a powerful thing to welcome each other. And it's a powerful thing to feel welcomed and feel like we belong and we are connected. This has no downside and all upside for our congregation and each other. We are going to close with Here in This Place out of the hymnal, which is one of my favorite hymns. And I love it because it talks about all of us in all of the different walks of life and where we come from, and we can all gather in. So, as Isaac leads us.